Banilin MasterCard Fellowship 2024. He also got award. That's the winner, MIFA NSC 2022 in Nigeria. From MIPTV Producer to Watch 2023 to recently working on set of Seraphine, a feature film in France. Esther continues to play a crucial role in showcasing beautiful African stories through stop motion animation on the global stage. I want us to put our hands together as we welcome our resource person for today, Esther Kemi Gbadamosi. Let's put our hands together for her.
Yeah,
So she will
you
be
very
giving
much.
a presentation. After the presentation, she will be able to give chance for you to ask questions. I hand you over to Josephine, who will be doing the rest of the moderation. Over to you, Josephine.
Good morning, everyone. Kemi, please go ahead with your presentation.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay. So thank you very much for this opportunity. It's pretty amazing how animation has picked up in the last couple of years, being an emerging space in Nigeria. It's as at the time where we had a little bit of the interest in animation way back when we were kids. It appeared like it was something that was really like far away, and that we didn't have so much access to making, rather than consuming kind of situation. And so it's having to come off, this kind of age, over time, and see how much accessibility that we can have to animation and making animated films, animated content, animated sequences is something that is truly exciting, and it's way even just beyond the excitement, but truly energizing, how much difference, we can truly make in things like representation and inclusion globally, with the world of animation. Animation is, it's many times much bigger than what, we see locally. But then, what we have locally has grown massively in the last couple of years. So I'm really excited to have this opportunity to actually share, my experience, because I really don't see it as me trying to teach. I try to bring it as simple as it gets, because it's essentially basic stuff, simple stuff. That's really how we can get it, and not look at it as complicated in any way, because it's not. It's us being able to apply our simple selves, to something that, can truly make a difference, if you're able to access that side of it. And so, yeah, so the what I'm really talking about is growing your global footprint with animation. I obviously won't go to the deep end of the pool without having to deal with the basics. Now, because when I'm talking about growing your global footprint, I'm not just talking about doing animation, like having frame by frame, putting things together, picture by picture, and all of that. No, not just that. But the idea of actually growing your global footprint, being able to spread, being able to get your stories beyond just being in Lagos or being in Enugu or being in Port Harcourt or being in Kaduna or wherever you are in Nigeria, to across the globe, across the world, to all of as many continents as, could possibly hear and love our stories, which is something essentially that we do. We are telling our stories through animation. Of course, we have Nollywood, who's already doing an amazing job, in telling our stories, particularly in the live action medium. And it's something that is truly making a difference globally. And because quality has improved in the last couple of years, it's helped us to sort of have that spread, because quality is important. Quality is something that we're going to be talking about quite a bit in this session, as much as we can, because to be honest, you can't grow a global footprint without quality. So I'm not just talking about animation in terms of, we just draw things up, but the fact that, quality is something that we need to already have off on the back of our minds, because animation is something that, it comes with, first and foremost, the natural interest. I will not advise anybody who does not have a natural flair for art, for putting things together, for colors, for illustrations, to go even in that route. It has to be something that you're excited about. Honestly, it's the excitement that you have, the curiosity that you have, the idea that you have, that I want to be able to tell this story, and I want to tell it in a medium that's not just the regular medium. Nigeria is a very, very populated country, so there are a lot of us, and one of the things that scares me, that or bothers me, is the fact that we, as men, in spite of our number, we tend to try to do the same things, like we all sort of focus in the same area, so if it's Nollywood live action, then we all just rush there. And so it causes and sort of overload, overlog, of talents, of which there are people that are talented in some other areas, but because the mediums of expression are not fully developed, they go to an area that already exists. And so that can also be some of the challenges that we have faced, over time in growing some of these illustrative mediums. Like that. So yeah, I just want us to just look a little bit at scope, and then I can just move on forward. So the scope of this talk, I believe, would be me. I have already been introduced, so we'll just introduce a bit of what animation is. We'll talk about animation Nollywood, types and how it has evolved, because it's very difficult to talk about types of animation right now without talking about how it has evolved, because animation has evolved. It's really changing. In the last 1 year, 2 years, it's also begun to evolve. And we need to begin to look at that evolution and how it affects our global relevance. Not just because there are easier means of doing it, but because we need to be able to do it in such a way that it's impactful and it actually does what we want it to do. So then we'll look at next generation African stories, the uniqueness of stop motion, which is the kind of animation that I decided to focus on after a couple of years of doing the various types of animation. Then the global possibilities and how we can fill in the gap, strategic positioning, which is critical, and of course, valuable relationship, which basically sums everything up. So yeah, I have been introduced, so I don't have to go through that again. But one thing I would want to talk about in get introduced myself, because it's what I do is not I don't think it's elaborate. I think it's really like the simple stuff that I truly love. I'm always excited to be in the studio working. It's something I'm passionate about. It's for me, my work is my Disney World. It's exciting. It makes every day, something you look forward to, because you're thinking of what you can create and things you can and how much difference you can make with the things that you can create, tell stories, how to make it better, and all of that stuff. So for me, it's, and in the course of doing this, I've, had so many amazing partners, people that, have supported us in being able to get this work done, especially at times when we didn't quite make the funds, to be able to run the work. And so, there were times that we got grants, and there were times that we've gotten support, from studios globally, producers who have seen our work and who have seen the possibilities of what we are trying to grow locally, and they have supported. And so, yes, I also do not work alone. I have people that have supported me. The US Embassy has been massive in support for me. So I need to acknowledge that way back since 2020, I think 2021, I had a first, the US missions with AFS, had an animation workshop, way back in 2021. This was me at that time trying to be sure it was concerning, like if you wanted to do something that will this work and all of that. And, they brought in producers who, funny enough, had the program first. Yes, it's this kind of support that has truly helped us grow from local to international, to be able to have some worldwide, recognition of our work, and of course, the possibilities that we have. So yes, that's just essentially what I wanted to talk about here. So I also did give a bit of a breakdown, of the fact that Nollywood has been growing, in leaps and bounds, and telling our stories around the world, and so when you look at Nollywood, the fact that different, it's more graphic, it's more, you create more, you have to make all of the characters, whether it's by drawing, which is something we'll talk about now, whether it's by modeling, or whatever way, you have to make, unlike not in live action where the human beings already exist, and so you tell the actors to make certain performances and all of that to be able to carry the stories or convey, whatever premise that you have, for your story across. So that's essentially how Nollywood differs from animation. It's deeply graphic. It's usually for the guys, sometimes you call the geeks. You have to create all, at least all, all of the sets, the props, the characters, but the beauty of it is that it's imaginative, very, it's something that you create for, yes, I am. So yes, and in the last few years, global attention has been drawn to our stories through animation. Yes, so I am using the slides. So basically, we have types. So animation first is art in motion. So that means when things move, in time. It's a beautiful blend of architecture. That's what you know about your world. Painting, sculpture, literature, and music. Film. So it's really it's a combined. Something we would probably call combined honors. It's combines all of the elements of art, together for expression, for you to truly be able to feel, the expression of animation. It's the combination of all of this. Now, I talked about the fact that I would be a bit descriptive, so you would notice that I have some stuff in my background. Okay, you're not seeing my, okay, we are not seeing my slide, but my slide is on. My slide is being shared. I've shared it. Okay.
You can see your slide, Kemi.
You can see it now.
We've been seeing it.
We can't see it here.
Thank you.
We can't see it here in Abuja.
Sorry?
We can't see it in Abuja.
Abuja, please log out and log in. It must be from your end.
Okay. All right. Thank
Abuja.
you. I was concerned. Okay. So for the types, of animation, we have. I'm just running through these. Most people already should have an idea of these, so that I can move straight to the crux of what I wanted to speak about. So we have 2D animation. 2D animation are for essentially the guys that draw. It comes in 2D frames. That means, just, you don't have the third dimension. You have just 2 dimensions of drawing. It's how Disney started out. Many of the initial animation studios that we know globally, 2D was the medium. 2D medium was one that existed way back. Stop motion also did, but it was more physical. But 2D was like, okay, yes, that was when people talk about animation, 2D is what people think about first. That kind of thing that you draw and then you draw something different. Like I said animation is movement in time. It's movement in time. That means at second one, this is where my illustration or my object is, and at second two, that's 2 seconds, this is where it is in a different place. So it's movement in time. Now, once you get the movement in time thing, then that's the entire definition of what animation is. Moving things in time. So it could be anything. It could be drawings, it could be objects, it could be models and stuff like that. So now the expressions of it will be 2D, 3D. 3D is what, has been even much more, pushed in the last couple of years. That's the digital medium, of being able to model characters for your projects or whatever in the third dimension. It's for me, when I was in uni, that was when 3D really was growing, and it was majorly for guys that had sort of sculpting, the ability to sculpt, probably with clay and stuff like that. But now being able to do it virtually, which gives you so many unique tools, that makes it easy to sort of put models together, whether it's be puppets, whether it's be sets, whether it's props, the idea of being able to bring them in the third dimension. Now, the beauty of 3D was the fact that, unlike 2D, that you have to draw every perspective, 3D, you had all your perspectives at once, so you just needed to turn the camera, the virtual camera, and you could see everything. So your world just needed to be created sort of like once, and then you just sort of moved your camera around, so it was sort of almost like a one world situation. Unlike 2D that it's more of like, okay, you have, this is your imaginative picture of this shot. This is my imaginative picture of this shot. So you draw. So, for example, in 2D, the quality of 2D would be in the quality of your frames. That means each frame that you're able to capture in your 2D. And then in 3D, it would be in the quality of your detail, because now 3D has taken care of what would have been the weakness of 2D, which is the frames, because it's 3D does a whole lot of interpolation for you, all of those animated, once you choose your keyframes and stuff like that, it sort of does all those blends. But where the quality really has, where you can now tell this is amazing 3D and this is basic 3D, is in the quality of the detail. It's in the detail of the work. We'll look at these issues when we talk about global relevance. I just wanted to address them upfront. That 2D, what makes it really amazing is the quality of the frames. 3D, what makes it really amazing is quality of the detail. Now, stop motion animation, which is the least common, around here, around the world as well, which is physical. Now, you'd notice I have puppets in the studio here, and the puppets they're physical. These puppets has been, an evolution of my work over the course of, 12 years, 13 years working on stop motion animated puppets. And, when I started out, I initially could not make the puppets. I had to use dolls that I customized and sort of try to make look like, us and tell our stories, and got to a point whereby I could actually make the doll from scratch. So for this puppet, if you can see it, was the very first puppet I made from scratch. I made it took me a year to make the puppet, and it's truly made a big difference in our work, quality of work, and global reach of our work, because it made a difference that in stop motion, originality is what truly counts. It's not just about you just coming up with stuff, but you being able to come up with stuff that are original. And so even though there's always the option of coming up with using things that already exist, which is why we would also look into AI. Okay. All right. So if instead of where we would also look into AI and the possibilities AI has brought into animation, we must also recognize that one of the critical things that makes animation beautiful, for me, stop motion that I work in, is the originality, the fact that you're creating something that you're not going to find anywhere. You're going to check everywhere and you're not going to be able to find it, because it's a story that now this for me is very critical to global relevance. The fact that you are bringing representation to something that does not have any form of representation before now. Now, be that as it may, it's also important to understand that AI, which has significantly transformed the industry of animation, has brought new tools, a whole lot of new tools to make things easier. So it's important that as we explore animation, we don't discard and also over-integrate AI. We just need to be able to come to a point where we can balance it. It's something that we need to address for global relevance. Because if you overexploit AI, it's clear. It becomes clear that there's really not so much originality in what you're doing. And so it becomes like everybody else. And like everybody else is not essentially what, you're trying to do, when you're coming into this field. Well, if you were like me, so it's obviously different, but then it's important that we also recognize that the tools that AI brings, it makes things easier for research, it makes things easier for iterations, so many ideas and all of that. But it's also important that we recognize that as much as possible, because AI brings ease, we explore the ease and we take away the originality. We take away the ourselves that's in our work, from it. So that's something that we need to look at in the types and how animation has evolved. Animation has evolved. It's become much easier. There's so many tools to help you now. So it's not as hard as way back, even when I started. It looked like almost impossible at that time, but because we loved it, we just kept working, and we found out that then it's gotten easier, but it's also important that the end goal is clear. The end goal is to be able to tell our stories from this part of the world through a unique medium to all other parts of the world. Once we're able to do that with the various types that, because for different people, different types come to them, funny enough, when I found stop motion, I didn't even know stop motion animation existed. I was doing 3D animation. I loved it. I was having a bit of a challenge, when I got married and I had kids. It was a little bit, and so I different poses of Spider-Man and Barbie dolls and stuff like that. And then I felt that, oh yeah, I can do it. I can use this to create stories and stuff like that. And somewhere in between was how I discovered that what I was doing was called stop motion animation. So at that time, it wasn't something I could find around here in Nigeria. But then, it's animation is expression. Animation is telling stories. And it's important that we have that at the back of my mind as we work, and so for folks that are coming from a different background, you know, in for different form animation. It's also, you know, at the end of the day, we're all getting to tell stories. You know, when we write books, you know, it's telling stories. When we make skits, you know, or when we try to express ourselves in talking head videos and all of that, you know, news reports, it's essentially us trying to capture a moment in time, whether it's in our present world or in our minds or whatever it is, you know. So animation does not just involve the parts that has to do with like the drawing and all of that. There's so many areas. There's for us, for example, the areas like costume, there's painting, you know, there's voiceover, you know, there's script writing, you know, being able to actually just write the stories, you know. So it's being able to find what area that, you know, gives you that expression, you know, and then you can access animation as the medium to get that expression out. You know, it could be music, you know, it could be any of sculpting, whatever, any of the arts, you know. It's being able to know that, okay, this is how I want to be able to express myself as an animation person or someone who wants to tell stories using the animation medium. To be able to access animation itself is pretty straightforward. You know, right now it's to get the kind of skills, critical skills required to be able to do animated content is all over the internet. You know, one of the things that it's not lacking today is knowledge. It's the knowledge to do anything. Is currently available. You know, it's just being able. I think the crux of the matter is making up our minds on what we want to do. I think that's where, you know, or what finding the place that we feel that would be our, you know, the round peg in the round hole, the place that we would be the critical place that would make the difference for us. You know, I think that's where the crux of the issue is. But getting the moment you make up your mind. I remember that 2021 thereabouts, that was when I made up my mind, and I said, you know what, you know, I'm not playing around this. I am doing stop motion animation. You know, I don't know what it's going to end up like. I don't know if it's going to work. You know, I don't know if it's going to move in Nigeria. You know, because at that time I didn't even have like what it was globally. You know, but then I made up my mind. You understand? I said, you know, I'm doing stop motion animation, and I started. At first, it was all trying to figure things out, you know, and try to make sense of it. But obviously, I knew that I had a couple of stories in my mind I wanted to tell, and then and it was, you know, telling first film, second film, third film. Currently, we're working on our seventh film. Our films have traveled like around the world, and it's amazing because sometimes I feel that the films we've made way back in the past were quite simple. But then, guess what? You know, because it's our African stories, and African stories in animation around the world are scarce. You know, they're not. We don't have. They're not heavy on representation globally. So you just find out that even if your films are not all over the place in Nigeria, all over the place in different festivals and in different studios, you know, in different parts of the world, our films are screened in virtually every continent. You know, it's giving me opportunity to access parts of the world I never imagined I would find myself, you know. But it's essentially being able to tell our stories, you know. So it's us being able to come to that point where we can tell our stories. Sometimes what we consider basic account stories, because it's all of our experiences here, are stories that, you know, people from other parts of the world would would open their eyes to what our communities are like and to what we are as a people. You know, just like, for example, when we would watch something from Disney and you watch maybe a Luca or an Encanto, and you'd be like, oh, wow, you know, I like the thing about the Latinos, you know, that kind of stuff and all of that, even though you may not necessarily have friends that are from there. So it's us being able to, you know, like go around the world, you know, with our stories, you know, and sharing it to places that we probably have not come in contact with it. So we have the options of being able to tell short films, you know, get into festivals, you know, limited series, elaborate features, if we had the budget, and put elements of our culture out there. It's a very interesting way. Some people call it soft power. It's how Nigeria has gained global relevance. Our creative sector, has pushed around the world in a way and manner that very few countries have been able to explore, in recent years. And animation is just one of them. In sharing in festivals and all of that, it has been very exciting to see how, even the image of Nigeria has become a lot more interesting in the last few years. I remember way back, maybe some 5-6 years ago, when you say you're Nigerian, there's this sort of look you get, but now it's like, oh, okay, you guys, your films and all of that stuff. It's exciting. It's exciting at airports. It's exciting at, getting to meet people, and people know that you're coming, with creative stuff. So yes, it's important that we represent, some of this stuff that, that we're all about, and continue to push it, regardless of how, it might appear that the economy is supporting it, and all of that. Because sometimes some of the things we look at is like, is it working? Is it convenient? Are my friends doing it? And all of that stuff, okay, all right. So yeah, so it's important that we're able to look at that. So like I said, I have tried all of the animated mediums, and I figured out that for me it was, I have my basic where I studied engineering in school, so I'm pretty good with my hands. I can make quite a number of things and all of that. I didn't know that my engineering will come into my filmmaking and all of that, but stop motion gave it that expression. And so it's finding it and being able to create stuff, and the stuff being appreciated in different parts of the world. The current film we're working on, we're not working on it alone. We're working with producers from different parts of the world who continue to support, the fact that we're beginning to grow, not just the art of stop motion in Nigeria, but grow materials. Materials I would never have imagined I'll come in contact with. I've come in contact with them, materials, tools. We have quite some stuff in our studio, and it's amazing, how trying to, even though it may not look like it's like fast, easy kind of thing, but then it works. And I think that's the critical part of it, so like I said from the beginning, it's important that, as we approach animation, we should look at it like the end, the end goal. That's the end from the beginning. So it's so that we don't just work, because animation has that, there's that tendency, because of how cumbersome it could be, for us to just get into the animation thing, just be all about, working frame by frame and stuff like that, and then forget the fact that there's somewhere you're going at the end of the day, which is key. Every day I remind myself, I say, okay, and why are you working on these amateurs? I'm working on these amateurs because I want to be able to create stuff in the puppets, and I know that my puppets will be more durable, and I'll be able to make better films with it and put them in, festivals. I get them world stage. It opens doors for us. It opens doors. If not for the films that we worked on, I would not be able to work on a feature film. For the beginning of this year till about March, ending into April, I worked on a feature film in France, and I would not have been able to do that if I haven't been able to do the ones that I did before. It's because of the ones that we had done before that gave us some level of competence, even though I felt, well, was it enough, and all of that stuff. I've had to show my CV, my animation CV in, like, to big producers, and they're like, whoa, you guys have done quite a bit of stuff and stuff like that. So it's important that as we work in this space, as people already making animated sequences, or not yet making, or just trying to figure things out, that there's a goal. Are you making a short? Are you working towards developing skills to make a short film, to get to a film festival? Do you want to put your film on Netflix? Do you want to get film partnerships? Do you want to work like, you want to gain skills in animation such that you can provide services for Pixar, for Disney, for, DreamWorks, or some other studio in some part of the world, or in Nigeria, so you need to know, okay, I want to be a modeler, I want to model, I want to write scripts, I want to produce scripts for animation and send it to, if you want to send it to the biggest, if you want to send scripts to the biggest studios in the world, your scripts needs to be able to go to maybe smaller studios first, and then it wins awards at festivals, probably wins awards at big festivals. It suddenly just becomes, I noticed that the way things skyrocket once your film does well, in a credible place. I've seen what winning awards at festivals can do, and so it makes me know, okay, yeah, we need to really get to the big stage. So we need to improve quality, and all of that. So yes, so you also have the opportunities not just to look for things that you can gain, but in terms of, from producers and people that buy animated sequences and films. But you can also look at developing visits, developing relationships that would help you, visit studios, see what other people are doing, and ensuring that grow. Your animation doesn't just stay where it is because you have done well with it, but it continues to grow, because that's also very crucial. And yes, and this would help us with strategic positioning, because as we represent, the word representation, is something that I experience. I get into a space for stop motion animation for the last couple of years. I've been in many spaces, and I'm just the only person that the same color of my skin. Everybody, oh wow, okay, you guys do stop motion in your place too, and you see how much, we have all rushed to something else. So in some areas, we're grossly underrepresented, and to work on internally, because the reason that we sometimes do not have representation is lack of qualification. So we need to qualify ourselves. We need to put ourselves in those spaces so that we can have representation. It's not right if in an entire artistic areas, there are people that are no Nigerians there or no Africans there or things like that. So it's important that we position ourselves to fill in these gaps of representation, because the world has gone global, and it's important that every aspect, you can see people from different cultures, representing, their different elements, the elements that represent them. And finally, which is, very crux to all that I've talked about, is valuable relationships. It's sometimes because of the economics of our country, I'm rounding up now, because of the economics of our country, it's our tendencies tend to be more concerned about funds, how we can make money, how we can get the money, and how, all of the profits comes in. So like all these things that she's saying now, how do we cash out? Yes, it's crucial, but the crux of the cashing out, it's always embedded in relationships. Some people call it networking. Why I'm concerned about calling it networking is usually that networking looks like something more official, get to know more people so that you can connect. But one of the things I discovered has been very valuable to me has been relationships. The fact that at the end of the day, as you meet people around the world or wherever you meet people, develop relationships, connect and truly connect. It connects on the basis of, even if it's on the basis of what you do, you understand, you're able to connect, you're able to share, okay, yes, I have this stuff I'm trying to work on, and stuff like that, yes, I will, okay, parent, now, so it's, those relationships will open doors to places that, unimaginable, because there are things that people may not do for you just because they know you, but they'll do for you because there's a connect, there's a bit of friendship there, so as much as possible, it's important that we not just have valuable relationship, but we also value our relationship. We follow up, we connect, because this for me has been very important, to how extended that we have gone, and we continue to work on it, because we're not just in relationships to be like, we are the ones that need help, which is also another part we need to look at. But we're in relationships to add value. That's like, even if the people are way up with so much, there's a lot we also bring to the table in studios that I have been able to work, outside of our space. I know that I brought value, value that would probably, have come in a different form, because obviously I'm Nigerian and all of that. But then I know that I put in, by the time I was doing, was like, whoa, Esther, you're leaving, that kind of thing, because it's value, so it's, people know that, oh yeah, if something is coming up or anything like that, they can reach out, because they know that when this person is around, she brings value. So these are also ways that, we can ensure that our relationships continue to spread, and it helps us build a global footprint. Because at the end of the day, it's one thing to do the animation, like, oh yeah, or the animation or whatever it is, medium of storytelling that you want to tell. But it's also important that it's able to hit the end goal, of moving you from this space, because people are not going to connect with you because they feel sorry for you, no, or they like your face. They may be able to do that maybe for a while, but eventually, the reason I've probably walked into some spaces, is because of the value, and they're like, look, you understand, if you work with me or you don't work with me, you understand, we're going to keep moving. We're going to continue to improve our craft. We're going to continue to improve the quality, of the projects that we make. Every new project we want to do, we want to use it to break new barriers that African films, African projects have never been able to reach. And that's what we're thinking ahead. And so we sit down in the studio and we do the work, and so that at the end of the day, when that hits, people will be like, oh, where did they come from? No, it's because we've been able to build it. And that's one beauty of animation. It's not necessarily in the largeness of the sets and so of that. It's being able to sit down, get your stories together, put them together frame by frame, ensuring that you process the details. Don't just do it for rushing's sake. Process the details, and ensure that at the end of the day, it's close to what you envisage, and then put it out there and then see what the results could be. So there are lots of possibilities here. It's essentially up to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kemi. Can we give her a round of applause?
Thank you.
So, because we are really running out of time, I would like to ask, particularly where we have a lot of audience, Abuja, do you have somebody that has a question? Uyo, Calabar, if you do, Enugu, you can raise up your virtual hand. Kemi, we have questions on the chat box. I don't know if you can start with that. We have about 15 minutes to run. If we can quickly take the questions.
Okay. So I will go to the add question. Okay. Okay. So someone's asking that what's the pay range? Pay range for stop motion animators. How much do you charge for 3 to 5 minutes stop motion project? Since stop motion is not 2D, do you charge the same way as 2D or okay. All right. So I will answer that. Now stop motion around the world, obviously it depends on just like any other medium, depends on how experienced you are. So I would talk to it as to regards entry level, and I'll try to look at it in Nigerian numbers, like that. So I would say that at the entry level, for stop motion, I believe that it's ranging, and I'll maybe just plain, I think about 3M thereabouts, within the range of a month, 3 to 4M for entry level, for stop motion, from at least from the few that I've heard, if the project is not so big, maybe we'll probably be looking at 2M, something like that. But then, yes, it's usually around that range. But at the end of the day, it's usually about how you're able to negotiate and the quality of how much they want you, that kind of thing. And I want to say that these numbers are, these numbers are foreign. We don't have too much of a stop motion space in Nigeria yet. So yeah, so that that part is something that is still. Sorry, I can't see the questions again.
Okay, so there's another one. What essential software and tools should a beginner animator learn to become industry ready?
Okay, well, naturally it will be Blender, because number one, Blender is free, it's open source, and it's professional. The current and it works for guys in 2D, they will benefit from Blender. Guys in 3D, they will benefit. Yes, Blender. Yes, guys in 3D, they will benefit from of course, it's critically 3D. For us in stop motion, we also benefit. I use Blender as well, because there are times that there are things I want to create and I want to sort of give some iterations to. I model them in Blender, then I do a 3D print. I do a 3D print of it, either by resin or by plastic or whatever material that I want to print it out with. You understand? But Blender is the software. The last film that won the Oscars for Best Animation was made with Blender. It was amazing to, for all of the guys that have criticized Blender as being, like for every Jictom and Harry, have seen that, look, sometimes it's not really just about the tool. It's about, it's the creator in behind it, that really makes the difference. So yeah, I would naturally recommend Blender. It's a straightforward answer. Okay. For stop motion animation though, it's called Dragon Frame. That's the industry standard for stop motion animation. 2D, there are different types. There are lots of, especially with AI now, there's so many, but for 2D, there's Toon Boom. Toon Boom is also like industry standard. So yeah, let me not go into like TV Paint and all of that, but let me say Toon Boom. Toon Boom is and the likes, is good for 2D. Fantastic. Okay. Yep.
All right, thank you. So before we go to the physical audience, let me just ask one of the questions on the chat box. Say, what are the 4 steps to start a career in animation?
So, okay, what are the first steps to start a career in animation? First and foremost, anytime it's your interest, because it's the fact that you're truly, it's something you really want to do, because it's what will keep you, in the days things are not working. It's so first and foremost, I would almost have said interest, but then I would say first and foremost, there needs to be, you need to want to tell stories, or want to do something with animation. I think that's step number 1. Step number 2 is being able to identify, what area of animation that you want to be able to express in. Even if you wanted to be a generalist, you need to be identify it. It's crucial, So once you have a clear picture of what aspect of animation that you want to work in, then you should just go ahead, go online. I wouldn't bother you to say maybe you go to school or anything. Go online, go to YouTube, tools, ChatGPT, everything. You understand? Just type you follow a process. The entire process is there. It's completely illustrated online. So from then on, it's all about being able to end up at whatever your own personal goal would be. But start a career, you need to have the skills, and then if you want to give like how to enter the industry kind of thing, then once you develop some skill, then you want to create a portfolio. Your portfolio is key. Once your portfolio is there, because I know how what portfolio does for me. So necessarily be fit. Send it. Studios have emails, so there's so many places. Put it online, put it on your social media page, put it out there. This is stuff you've done, get it, especially towards directions of where you want to go, or people that that need what you have. You need to be able to identify, you need to be able to do your research and put it out there. Because for me to say, I wouldn't say just maybe carry a CV and all up and down. Your portfolio is crucial, your show reel, if you have one, because the conventional ways of spreading your work has continued to change. It has evolved, so now your CV is probably your Instagram, so it's being able to put it out there, let people see it. When you'll be amazed who will call you from some part of the world, we just reach out to you and say, excuse me, please, we want to do some stuff, are you available to be able to, but then you need to be out there.
Okay.
But it obviously starts with the skill. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So in this succession, I will ask Abuja, Calabar, and Oka. Please unmute and go straight to the question because of our time.
Yes, that's it.
Abuja.
Okay. Good morning, Kemi. Nice presentation. My question is with regards, what do you think about AI and VO3 actually? What is it about VO3, and how do you see it altering the future of animation, and what category does it fall under? Is it 2D, 3D, or stop motion?
Okay.
Sorry, can you take another one?
Not yet. Hold on. Let me go to Calabar. Please, Kemi, you can answer the first question.
And I didn't get it very clearly.
Okay, I said, what do you think about VO3? It's been released since the end of last month, if I'm not mistaken. What category do you place it under? Is it 2D, 3D, or stop motion?
What category do I place what? Sorry?
VO3. Google VO3.
Sorry?
Maybe you should type it. Please type it. She did not get it. So, okay, let's take
another
Calabar.
one.
So we'll come back, Grace.
Okay.
Calabar. We can hear you.
So my question is around artificial intelligence, right? Listening to all you have said, I was sensing some sort of fear when you were talking about artificial intelligence. I was saying that, my question is that, artificial intelligence, is it not a way to level the playing field for African storytellers, right? Rather than approaching it with fear of all the negatives that may happen, that would make. Now, can we not consider all the positives that artificial intelligence gives us as African storytellers by making the playing field equal for animation and those seeking to go into animation?
Kemi, did you get that?
Yes, I think I got it. That there was a reference to AI, in us telling our stories. If that's what I got.
Yeah, he's saying he perceived that when you were sharing and talking on AI, that you were a bit apprehensive about AI. He is asking that, is AI not a leveraging tool for Africans to be able to tell their stories?
Yes, it is. AI is awesome. It's, but I'm all very careful when I'm talking to young people on AI, because my apprehensiveness is as a result of what AI can do if you overuse it, in terms of, it's bringing commonality to your work, because AI draws, it draws intelligence from different sources, so it takes away some originality from the quality of our work. Don't forget that it is us telling our stories, our African stories, and that R is critical, to getting our stories out there. The fact that it's our stories, not AI stories, not AI, and that kind of thing. So it's very important that we understand that AI is a tool, and it stays that way, So if there are skills, creative skills that needs to be developed, develop them, not just use a tool to solve that skill, because there are a lot of AI tools that can solve skills that we don't have now. So that is where I'm a bit apprehensive, because for your work to have global representation, it's crucial that it's not something that anybody can just come and produce it.
We got
You
that.
understand?
Yes.
That is the thing. Anybody can just type a prompt and produce your work. It's something that you want to avoid.
So you're talking about originality. It's very important.
Original AI takes it away. So you need to know, okay, how am I using AI? I use AI, but I don't use it to I don't use it to create, the stuff. I sit down, I build what I'm working on. I weld, I join things. I do all of that. I don't just type the prompt to create the puppets, and then go to the printer and print it out. I could do that, but then why should I do that? Why can't I create? I have whatever I have in my head. Okay, yeah, AI could give. Now I could try AI and say, give me different iterations of this character, that kind of thing. And it will give me, and I'll be like, oh, okay, I didn't think of that. And that's interesting. Let me add that. Yeah, that kind of thing. And then I can integrate that and all of that stuff. And then I still work on my stuff. Not that, AI can now create puppet. What are we creating puppets again for? You understand? That kind of thing. And then at the end of it, our originality is gone. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yes,
please,
ma'am.
can you stop sharing your slide?
Okay.
All
right.
So Abuja has typed their question on the chat box. While you are reading that, the last question that was asked. So let me ask Oka to unmute and ask her question.
Okay, thank you so much, Kemi. It's been a great time listening to you. My question is this. Yeah, I believe it's modeling clay that you're using. Are there other materials that can be used? And I also think emphasis should be laid on the basic materials used in producing some of the puppets that you use in your animation. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so yes, I use modeling clay, no doubt. I use polymer clay, I use natural clay, I use sometimes I use plasticine, I use all sorts of clay to create the puppets, the original forms. But after that, for me to be able to animate them, I use silicone. Before now, I have been using aluminum wire inside silicone. So like for puppets that we make by ourselves, we maybe like this one. Okay, yeah, I'm putting down. Okay. So like for puppets that we make yourselves, so this puppet is sort of silicone, like so you can animate the hands if you'd see, that kind of thing. The hands are animatable, so you can hold things, that kind of thing. And then, okay, these three glasses, I 3D printed it, but then it's animatable. So all the parts of the body, sort of like can animate and stuff like that, so but it had wire inside, and so yeah, the wire is cool, because aluminum is dead metal, so it allows the silicone being that material that plumbers use, for sealing, that kind of thing. So yeah, but they're also industrial silicone is what, so once you cast it on top of it in the mold, it creates the puppets for you, and then you can animate like that. So yes, so this is after then I did some surface work, did some hair implanting. You see the hair, putting some gray hair and stuff like that. So yeah, it's at the end of the day, for the clothes we did some tie and dye, all that kind of stuff. Just sort of like play around. But at the end of the day, it's like original stuff. Not like like created, just picked up or bought somewhere, that kind of thing. So yes, so there are lots of materials that right now we are sort of upgrading that to moving it to more durable materials so that we can animate for longer, and then we can have more solid joints and stuff like that. So we are sort of moving to ball and socket joints. So this is involving things like stainless steel, brass, those kind of materials, but then it's been because of some exposure that I've had, to gain experience to be able to do that. So that's essentially what we're trying to build on so that we can get our work, to bigger stages, not just, limited to the skills set that we have. But yes, lots of materials that we use, and then there's the other materials apart from silicone. There's a material called felt. Funny enough, it's not very common in Nigeria, but then it's amazing. I can imagine what we would be able to. You use felting pins to like stuff wool. It's amazing. It's a beautiful material. There are different materials that respond. For example, another material I'm busy cutting around right now is some of our food materials, things like fufu, semo, all those kind of things, yeah, that would probably give you some interesting textures, but it's original to us, and so yeah, these are things that, yeah, it's not something that's, somebody in the US or somebody in China or somewhere else, we just come up with it. So it's original to us, but then we're using it to be able to create, our own stories. So yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about. Yes.
All right, thank you very much. So Abuja, we are taking the last question in Abuja. Kemi, then, when you are answering the last question in Abuja, please try to answer the Google VEO3 question on the chat box, and we'll round it up for today. Abuja, please unmute and ask your last question.
Abuja.
American Center, Abuja, the second question.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Dr. Uche Abanusi. The person from Walker Center asked the question I wanted to ask. It's about how you start all these things, and she has really explained some of these things. And the other question I wanted to ask is that for those people that are really writing, like some of us that are inside writing, how do we bring these into our write-ups? That is showing some pictures to somehow animate what you are writing. Instead of being verbose in what we are writing, we can use maybe a kind of to stop to explain whatever we want to present to the public. So how do we do that?
Okay, how do we illustrate what is being said with animation?
Yes.
Well, it's usually there's what they call script or book to screenplay. It's for film. I think it's the same way it applies to animation, the same way it applies to film. If once what you write it for the screen. There's something we call storyboard. Once you have an idea of what you have written, and it's a little, because of course what is written is readable. So it's that whatever ideas that we have, we sort of try to put it into something visual, and a storyboard helps you. Once you have your screenplay, then you can you use a storyboard to be able to, because it's that visual that now tells you whether it's 2D, 3D, depending on what medium you want to express it in, 2D, 3D, or stop motion. If it's stop motion, like for me, once I have what I can see on the screen, I can create the elements and then we animate. So, but the interesting thing is, for example, if it's your it's about what you're trying to put together, For me, I feel that exploring AI tools here would be very important, because that's why I said that from the very beginning, the end goal is the crucial thing. Because if, for example, you have something you've written up, I don't really see why you have to go through the process of learning how to draw or model and all of that to be able to put it together. You use AI prompts, just try since your originality in what you have written, you understand, then you use the originality in what you have written, to make the AI stuff unique, if that is clear, because it's in trying to convert what you have written to animation, it does take some time. It's animation takes a while to be able to do a I'm working currently on about a 15 minutes short film, and at the moment it's taking me 2 years already, you understand, to work on it. So so it's animation is to be able to do stuff that gets to like standard and all of that. It takes time. It may appear like outrageous to maybe a typical in the Nigerian setting, but that's what it is. Globally, it's in some places worse. Some people use 7 years on their films, and it's not even as long as feature film. But then at the end of the day, when these films or sequences are out, the effects or the long-term effect they have is very different from what ours is like too. So it's a cause and effect thing. So if you have something you've written and you want to be able to turn it to animated content, I would naturally recommend exploring. If I was the one, I'll probably except it's something that I want to be able to. There's a particular where I'm aiming it to get to would now determine. For example, if you're aiming for maybe some of the very, very big festivals that would put you on some very, then you know that you don't want to just sit down and start typing AI prompts. You want to do much more than that, that kind of thing. So yet the end in mind, it sort of has a way of helping you design your path. Not just because it's sort of garbage in, garbage out situation. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
So can you take on the question on the Google VU 3?
Okay, the questions.
Yes.
Okay.
So what do you think? You've read it?
Yeah, I saw okay, I don't know why I am having issues with this.
Okay, let me read it. So what do you think about Google VEO 3, and what category does it fall under, and what is its place in the future of animation?
Okay. I think I'm not very familiar with Google VO3, but I think from what I heard, it's Google's AI solutions, in animation. I don't know too much about it. I would rather not speak to it since it's not something I'm not very familiar with, but until I don't know. Sorry, it's not something I'm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So there's another one from Calabar. Say, for writers, how can they translate their stories to animation?
Okay, for writers, how can they translate their stories to animation? Okay, well, if it's written and it's complete, it has gone through reviews, in terms of like people that already do animation look at it and say that yes, it works, because writing for live action is different from writing for animation in the sense that there's more detail in writing for animated content. So once that works, it's all about being able to say if you don't already do animation or something that you practice, then you need to find somebody to be able to collaborate with. Collaboration is key at this point. If there are any parts of something you want to do and you don't have the skills to be able to do them, but you feel that what you have is good enough, then it's the collaboration. Collaborate with animation studios, collaborate with people that already do animation, individuals, just like, freelancers that that can connect with your story, so that you don't even have to pay them, because there's folks that are looking for great stories, and honestly, to say that there are folks they are looking for great stories is an understatement. Globally, people are just looking for something that's, the next spark. And your story might just be that what so people are looking for, So, and it may just look like basic to you, but then, somebody collaborating with you on that story, because like people say in content creation, that story is king. So at the end of the day, in spite of all these mediums that we talk about, the crux, the most important thing is still the story, because it's the story that carries everything. So once you write an amazing story and somebody reads it, an amazing story is an amazing story. There's nothing, no argument. I read an amazing story and I'm like, look, let's collaborate, let's do this stuff together, and we become co-producers on it, and then we work on it and then we get it out there. So yes, collaboration is the way forward for if you have content, if you have something written, because the writer is a very key participant in the production of any film or animated sequence.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kemi. At this point, we must round off. We've really exceeded our time. And I'd like to appreciate you for taking out time to educate us, even on animation. I would like to ask if you can drop your social media handles. Peradventure, there are people on the call that might want to take it up from here to follow you and to learn more about how to get into the business of animation, or to build a career or start a career in animation. So I also want to thank all our directors for ensuring that this program was able to hold this morning. Special shout out to America Center Abuja. You are doing amazing. Thank you to all our directors, Port Harcourt, Kefi, Calabar, Uyo, Lekki, Sokoto, Kano, all of you, Mina, Ikeja, Oshogbo, thank you for coming. Tomorrow is the final session for our youth development series on volunteerism. I would like that you participate in that program. Tomorrow is going to be an engaging and a time to learn from our speaker tomorrow. We look forward to seeing you all by 1:30. Thank you and do have a great time.
Bye.
Some people are asking to record this session. Let me announce to you that is on our Facebook page, American Spaces Nigeria. You can get to watch over and over again and to build a career in animation. Till we meet tomorrow, bye for now, everyone. Thank you, Fekemi. Bye-bye.